morning. During this particular presentation, we again have this discussion about self-awareness. And previously I had the intention to actually talk about my double thumbs. I was speaking about choice. And I made mention of the fact that the picture that you see is of my double thumbs. And the one that you see now is also of my double thumbs. I mentioned the aspect about, I wonder what my parents thought when they initially looked at my right hand and saw that I had double thumbs. And they had to make a decision about my double thumbs. I was born in the early 50s, 1952 actually. And certainly the technology that was available then was not the same as the medical technology that's available today. And they could have made all kinds of decisions in regard to my particular status in life, but they chose to allow me to keep my double thumbs on my right hand. And in my early life, there were individuals, they were considered friends of mine, who had in mind they wanted to separate my thumbs. I was different from them, and they had in mind they wanted to separate my thumbs. And I remember being in the midst of a garden of growing corn. We were standing between the corn stalks, the corn plants. They were taller than we were. A group of my friends stood on one side of my hand and another stood on the other side, and they were going to separate my fingers one from the other. They were going to perform the surgery, if you will, that the doctors had not performed when I was born because I was different. It wasn't something that they wanted to do because they did not like me. It was actually something they wanted to do because they did like me. They wanted me to be like them. They wanted me to be conformed, to be exactly like them. Remember that idea. They wanted me to conform, to be exactly like them so I could fit into the group that they were in, to be normal as they were or as they considered themselves to be. And I needed, therefore, to be like them, conform. They had a thumb on each hand or a fingernail on each finger, one fingernail. And here I was with two fingernails on one finger. That was different. And I became aware of the fact that I had two fingernails on one thumb. So I was called someone had a double thumb. For a major part of my life as a young person, I was very self-conscious of this fact that I had double thumbs when I went out on dates initially. I was considered to be a very handsome young man, of course, at that time. But when I went out on dates, I would cover my finger, my double thumbs, being conscious of my double thumbs. And so made the choice to cover my thumbs, take one hand, cover over the other, for a person that did not know me. Very self-conscious in regard to that. I had double thumbs. And all of these kinds of things were thoughts that I had about this set of double thumbs. And we're talking about self-consciousness, this aspect of recognizing who you are, what you're capable of doing, what you're capable of having, all of these kinds of things because of the thoughts that are in the mind in regard to that. And so the time came, actually, when I had intended to join the Army. And I wanted to go into the Army because I had made a decision when I was a young person. I wanted to go into the Army because I calculated that if I went into the Army, I would be able to get what it was called the GI Bill at that time. It was a GI Bill that made it possible for a person to buy a house with no money down. Also, it made it possible for an individual to get a stipend, if you will, or funds that would come back as a result of going to school, going to college. And I was the first of my parents' children to graduate from high school. And I knew nothing about actually getting awards or grants or anything like that as far as going to school or scholarship or anything like that. I had been accepted into the schools that I wanted to go to. One was Howard University. The other one was Hampton University. I've been accepted into those schools, if I remember correctly, how that went. And this was in the year 1970, I believe, that I had been accepted into the schools. But I did not know how to get the money, so I decided that what I wanted to do was to join the Army in order to get the benefits of the GI benefits of that. And as a result of that, I had to go and take a test and then also do a physical exam. When they did the physical exam in the year after I graduated, because I had to wait, I was, I believe, 17 years old when I first graduated from school. And I wanted my mother to sign for me. She refused to do that. My father would not sign. And I had to wait until I became 18 years old. At 18 years old, I was able to sign for myself. And I took the test. And then I went to take the physical exam, or took the physical exam. When I did that, the doctors looked at my thumb and initially said to me that I could not join the Army. So even though I had passed the mental exam, the physical exam, basically I failed. And then the doctor said, we can have a specialist come and see you, or you can come and see the specialist in about 6 months. And if the specialist says you're able to come and pass the test that he gives you, then it's possible that you may be able to come and join the Army. And so I waited 6 months, and when I came back to the facility, I came to the specialist, and the specialist looked at my hand, and then he gave me a test. And what he asked was that I take my thumb and that I touch each one of my fingers on that hand, on my right hand. And so I had to take the tip of my the tip of my thumb and touch the tip of each finger with the tip of my thumb. So I had to do it so that I touched every finger, the little finger, the next finger, the next finger, the next finger. And likely I had to do it so that I could touch each fingernail or each part of it with that particular part, each fingernail part with each finger. And I was able to do that. Now, here's the part that I want to say in regard to choice. What the doctor said to me after I had done that, and he made this cryptic statement, this very important statement. He said, I can do an operation on your hand. I can cut your thumb off. I can cut it off. And I can give you a thumb that looks good, but it will not work as well as the thumb that you have. Or you can keep the thumb that you have, but it won't look good or look like the other thumbs that other people have. Now remember that I wanted to go into the Army. And here he is talking about that he can cut my finger off, my thumb off. And he will give me a thumb that looks good, but it will not work as well as the thumb that I have. Or I can keep the thumb that I have that works, but does not look like the thumb that others have on their right hand. And at that point I chose, of course, you can tell, to keep my thumb, my double thumbs. It was a major choice. It was a major point of self-awareness for me. And then I asked, well, what about going into the Army? Because previously I had been told I could not go into the Army. And the doctor said, I can sign a paper that allows you to go into the Army with your double thumbs. And that's how I was able to go into the Army. Changed the rules, or made an exception, or whatever you want to call it. Because I made that decision, I was able to go into the Army. And that's what I mean, at least one example of what it means to be self-aware. The uniqueness of oneself, that which does not change or should not change about oneself. And when one looks at that, you make that decision to remain true to who you are as an individual, because that's who you are at your core. Not just the simple fact of this is, so to speak, how you live or how you look. Not just that, but at the core of the individual, at the DNA level of the individual. That's what the journey of self-awareness is about, is discovering who that person, who you are as an individual. What is at the germ level, at the DNA level, both of the mind in particular, the spirit in particular of the individual. What are your values? What are your motives? What are the principles by which you live? And not just what mama, or daddy, or society, or the church, or anybody else has said, not what your experiences, whether they were successes or failures, but what you made up in your mind at this point in your life, what you are convicted about. The principles that you choose to live by that are important to you, those things that are important to you. And you examine them and know why you are living by those principles. No matter what has happened to you, because there are things, of course, that have happened to many people. There's a book that I've written that deals with physical sexual abuse prior to the age of puberty. There are things that are happening in society where people are abused. They're dealing with all kinds of isms as far as life is concerned. But beyond all of that, there is that which is God that is at a deeper level. That is what we're talking about. There's a design for each individual's life. And it's making sure that we get down, that the individual gets down to that level, that vision that Spirit had for you before there was anything in this earth realm. Get to that, whether you call it getting down to that or growing up to that or having a vision for that, whatever you want to call it by any name, but getting beyond all of the things that have to do with this earth sphere, so to speak. There is that which is you, that is divine. That which has never been born and will never die. There is that which is you, the individual. That which is the I am, which is inside of each individual. That when you say I am, you are connecting with that. I am. And that is what we're talking about here when we talk about this aspect of self-awareness. It is the I am awareness. It is to become conscious of your thoughts. The biblical statement says something like judge not by appearance. And what it is talking about, this aspect of appearance, is not just with the eyes, what you see as far as physical eyes is concerned, but it's really talking about the five senses that man has, that a human has, where it does sight and sound, it does smell, it does taste and touch. All of these senses, they have a way of seeking to inform an individual about what is real as far as that individual is concerned, what is real. But there is a sensing that takes place beyond, the senses. A sensing. There's a sensing. And the movies, if you will, seek to articulate that. The movies, many movies. I'm thinking of the Star Wars movies where the idea of trust the Force, Luke, that is classic. I mean, just classic. Trust the Spirit, trust God. Whatever you want to call, whatever name you want to use, because there's one God, there's one Spirit. This is a universe. There's one. And we are part of that one. There's one humanity, or one humankind. And we're all part of that. As the text says, in him we live and move and have our being. Or you could say, in him, her, in God, Spirit, Father, Mother, God, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it, Gaia, by whatever name you want to call it, not getting caught up in all of that. But understanding there's something universal about all of this that we call spirit, and something that is within each individual that is spiritual, and getting to the point of being aware of that which is uniquely the individual in the midst of the collective that is humanity. In the midst of the collective that is humanity. And out of that uniqueness, understanding one's choice, one's ability to make choices. All major spiritual traditions say that each person, including you and me and everybody else, that we live in a world, each of us lives in a world that is a made-up world, a world in which the individual gives meaning to places and to events in his or her life that constitutes that person's reality. But it is not the reality that is with a capital R. It's not that which is real as far as spirit is concerned, as far as God is concerned. That's why the text says, judge not by appearance. The appearance is created by the individual, whether it's a small time frame or a limited time frame, whether it's for a longer time frame. And this is where as I was saying, it comes to the point where a person is taking in information on a subconscious level, and they're being programmed, and they will later act in accordance with what they're taking in. And they are not even aware. Well, of course, when a person is a child, they're taking in information from sources that they certainly are not processing consciously. And they grow up and recognize that I'm making a decision based on something that I really don't know. I have not consciously sat down and thought about why I'm being and doing and having the way that I'm being and doing and having? What are my values? Why do I believe this about myself? Why do I believe this about other people? Why do I believe this about God? Why do I believe this about the world? Why do I believe? This is what it means to be self-aware. It's to ask the deeper questions. And deeper is not necessarily different, but it is to go to a different level in regard to that question, to ask the question of why. Why are these my values? Who chose them for me? Because this world can be a made-up world. Again, you look to the movies. For those who are old enough to remember, there was a movie called A Few Good Men. And in that movie, the character played by Jack Nicholson, I believe, said, "You can't handle the truth." Well, it's time to say, I can handle the truth. And you're talking to yourself, I can handle the truth. I'm going to stop lying to myself about life, about what it is. I'm willing to tell myself the truth about myself. I have double thumbs on my right hand. Even if I cover them up, they're still there. I have double thumbs on my right hand. I accept myself. I have double thumbs on my right hand. And the doctor gave me the opportunity to look at that, to consider that, to see if I could live with that. And if it meant that I could not go into the military, then I had to consider that possibility, because I needed to make that decision before he told me whether or not I could go into the military. That's how it is with this process. Think about you being in a situation in life, and you've got to deal with whatever it is that life is presenting to you. And so don't use the double thumbs as one thing. See it as a symbol and find your own set of circumstances where you, as the poet says, you find a road that diverges two ways. And it's a yes-no type situation. You've got to make a decision one way or the other. And there are so many places in every day where it's yes or no, yes or no, yes and no continuously. You take ownership of your life and go as far forward as you can in that regard, and go as far back as you can in that regard, and own your life. That's self-awareness. Not by appearance, not by what has happened to you in life. We've all had difficult and challenging times, and people come from one country to the next, all of those kinds of things, by all kinds of things. But make that decision of whether or not you're going to control the meaning of the past and the making of the future. Get that now. The meaning of the past and the making of the future. You get to control the meaning of the past and the making of the future. That's self-awareness. And it's a journey, because it's like traveling. It's a process. When you look at the hero's journey and you look at the movies, you're processing a set of thoughts about the characters that you see on the screen. But when you consider your life as if you are the character that you're looking at, all of a sudden the movie has greater meaning to you. Choose a character in the Star Wars. Are you Luke Skywalker? You Princess Leia? Are you Rey? Or you Darth Vader? Or you Obi-Wan Kenobi? Or any movie that there may be, The Wizard of Oz, Transformers, whatever it may be, you choose a character. Those are just some of the movies that I pick out and look at the hero's journey. There's a whole library of material you can look at that we'll talk about at a later time, the hero's journey, because it's part of a coaching process. When I'm working with people directly in regard to, again, taking this journey, taking them through a process, coaching them, or helping them to understand how to coach others who really, truly want to, who are determined to look at this on a deeper level because they want to actually go through a process whereby they achieve their desires, their dreams, their aspirations, their visions. They want to make their future what they have decided that it's going to be. It's like championship athletes who decide, I want to play a particular sport, and they understand that I must practice, I must go through the necessary discipline. That's what I'm going to do in order to bring about the life that I want. And that's what you want to do. That's what it means, again, to be self-aware. And so you then create the reality that you want. You create that reality. And so rather than just simply saying I'm a victim of whether it was where I was born or who I was born, my genes and my ancestors, or all of those kinds of things, there's some things that you cannot change in regard to that. But the meaning that you make of the past, and then when you look at the aspect of how you're going to make the future, again, how you're going to move forward into the future, you make the decision about that. So that's what I'm saying in regard to self-awareness. Judge not by appearance. Don't judge yourself by appearance. Don't judge yourself about what you're capable of doing, who you're capable of becoming, what it is that you're capable of actually achieving in life by even what has been said about you or what you've even thought that you're capable. Become self-aware, and you might be surprised what God working in, through, and as you are capable of bringing to pass. When you are self-aware, it means to become aware. It's to become the one who is a subject, the one who enacts or directs the action of the verb. You are the one. You're the subject. You're the one who enacts or directs the action of the verb of your own life. You're not simply the object of the action or the one who receives the action of the verb. You are the doer of the action. You indicate which meaning the verb has. You decide which way this entire thing is going to go. You become the subject. It means to have agency. You're the agent. You generate the action. You say how it's going to go. This is what we mean by self-awareness. And as I said, I coach individuals in regard to that. I want to invite you again that if you want to move it to another level, info@iwillrestore.com, info@iwillrestore.com. We're talking about the journey of self-awareness to become one's authentic self, info@iwillrestore.com. And we'll talk about this for a few more presentations. Happy Thanksgiving to you. There's a mighty powerful day of Thanksgiving today with family and everything, but wanted to get this to you today. Blessings, all of you who are listening. We're just so glad to have this day to spend with you and everything. And leave your comments and everything. It's been just a joyous day. Blessings again. Take care. Bye-bye.